This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wrestling Omakase. It is episode number 144, and this week, very pleased to be joined by a returning guest after, I believe, 3 years? I think it's 2 years.
It's been a while. It has been a long time, but I am back.
Brian Quinby from Street Fight Radio has returned. Hi, Brian.
Hey, John, what's up?
Not a whole hell of a lot. It's basically the same thing every day.
Yeah,
I feel like I live in the suburbs again, basically.
Yeah, I do too. Like, actually, I mean, my neighbors have been partying. They opened a lot of stuff up here. So I live in one of those places that's just going to be hell in the next couple weeks. But yeah, they opened a lot of stuff up. So my neighbors have been like partying, and I'm like, oof, okay.
there's like nothing open here still in the Bronx, but there's like my downstairs neighbors have definitely been my downstairs neighbors never stopped partying. Like, they've had the loud music and the people over like pretty much since like week one of this, when everybody in New York was dying on a daily basis, so they don't give a fuck. Yeah, like we will dance on the corpses. We don't care. But yeah, there are some people who are like have not stopped partying, but for the most part, everybody else has been very quiet. So,
yeah, my hope is always that they're just like, it's the same people, because I'm bad with like faces and stuff. So like, I don't know if the people next door are just always the same people or not. And I don't look at them, and I'm self-centered. So I just keep walking by them. I mean, I'm doing a street fight at the studio. Like, I'm going over there and recording, but other than that, it's really the only place I go. I'm not like really going anywhere else, and I'm keeping the circle very small. I
haven't left my apartment in like a month, I think. I've gone on my balcony. That's as far as I've gone. So I don't know. I've taken social distancing to heart, I guess. We have grocery delivery here. So like, we have no immediate need, I guess, to go out really. And I've been tipping people very, very well to bring me food, and not going anywhere. So.
As soon as this happened, I was going to start getting my food delivered, my groceries delivered too. And that just wasn't the infrastructure here in the city to do it. And it was just, I couldn't. So I've been going to the grocery store once a week since this all happened. And at first I was like having panic attacks and stuff when I got home. But now I'm just like, I wear a mask. I take a shower when I get home. So I'm trying not to stress super hard about it. Although it is, again, it's like, once they started opening stuff back up, that was when I was like, oh, this probably is too early, and like, it just, you can like look at the people who are like, a lot of my stuff's on hold because of this too. So like, It's like, I understand why you would want to open like your store, but not a good idea. And there's nobody going to them anyway. That's the other thing. It's
you
like
see like the shit from the South where like they open these states up and like, you know, like they got back like 5% of the business or something. There was this amazing thing from when they opened up Georgia. So this fucking rinky-dink axe throwing place reopens, right? And they're like, they have this big giant advertising campaign. We come fucking throw your axe. We're back. And this was like weeks ago, by the way. And, you know, for the first weekend, they said, you know, our worst case scenario, we thought we'd get like a quarter of our business back. They had 2 customers the entire weekend.
Yeah.
So like nobody wants to fucking go out and throw an axe and drink beer in the middle of this. I'm sorry.
No.
I mean, I fucking love bars, but I am not going in a fucking bar in the middle of this. And I probably already had it, but I just don't want to. I don't know that I had it. I don't want to take that fucking risk, you know?
Yeah, we had to have the big conversation last night. Me and my partner Brett from Street Fight, like, we're probably not doing any shows this year. Yeah. And it's like I've been like sitting around going like I've been like I mean, maybe in November or October or September, but it's like once they opened everything back up, it was just like this, it's not happening. It's just like this is gonna drag on until there's some way to treat it or cure it quickly, you know?
Yeah.
They're just gonna let this go.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. I mean, I'm just like, I would have been great if I could have gotten a test when I was really sick, you know, months back now, but you know, that was when New York had no tests at all. And then they're like, you hear all this different shit about those antibody tests where they're like, oh, you know, they're this accurate, but some of them are not accurate at all, but some of them are like only so accurate that if you get a positive test, you can't actually be reasonably certain you had it. So I'm like, then what the fuck is the point of getting that done, you know?
Yeah.
But I think I can get it. I think I can go and get the test. I think my lab, the lab that my doctor uses, emailed me about it. But I'm like, first of all, I have to get on a fucking like bus and go to Manhattan, which I don't fucking feel like doing during this anyway. But yeah, I haven't gotten the test yet. I guess I should do that.
I mean, I think like, I mean, and that's one of the reasons I got even a hold of you after hearing the first few of these shows. It's like, this would make me watch wrestling. And like, I don't have anything I feel like there's no entertainment left. There's just nothing. Like, I feel like I've burned through anything I could ever possibly want to watch. I watched all the Star Wars movies for the first time in my life during this quarantine, which is like, it would have been an unthinkable thing for me had my life been going normal.
Well, I got super into those Yakuza games, which like is one of these things I always meant to try because, you know, it's games based on like Japan and it's like you have to run around Japanese city. It just seems like a very me thing, you know, but like I would not have the time to fucking plunge 40 hours per game because there's like 8 of them, but I would not have the time to do that if not for this fucking lockdown. So
yeah, I'm teaching myself. I'm learning Mortal Kombat 11. Like I'm learning how to play Mortal Kombat 11 right now. Like I sit and do the tutorial, which is like really long and detailed and good. Like I like the tutorial. So this is my review of Mortal Kombat 11 is I've spent 2 or 3 weeks on the tutorial.
I keep meaning to play that. I played through 10, but I never got to 11.
It's pretty fun. I imagine it's more easy to play if you played 10. I haven't played since Mortal Kombat 3, which I was very good at, but that was a very long time ago.
Yeah, as a kid, I was more of a Street Fighter person, and I did get really for like a couple weeks. Me and my friend were playing like Street Fighter Anniversary Collection on PS4, like just against each other over online, just so we had something to do against each other. But he got tired of playing because I beat his ass too much. So
that's crazy. So you were Street Fighter. I grew up like going to this pool hall that had video games. It was called Quarter Flash, and their big gimmick was that everything was a quarter. And they had Mortal Kombat 3, Killer Instinct, and Tekken, and they like had all the fighting games. I think they even had Street Fighter, but like nobody played Street Fighter 2. Everybody played Mortal Kombat there. We all just played it.
Where I grew up, it was like I don't know. I mean people play Mortal Kombat, but a lot of people played Street Fighter too. So like when I used to go to this place called Sports World which is like in Paramus, New Jersey. It was like this one of those like big arcade places that was also like it had like a motion simulator and the laser tag and all that shit. But like the arcade section just was like had a ton of fighting games. And yeah, I used to play Street Fighter 2 there a lot, and then Street Fighter Alpha, and then later on Virtua Fighter and Tekken were very big. But yeah, I don't know. I was very into Street Fighter as a child. And then later on, I went to arcades for a long ass time because after the fighting game stuff, I got really into like DDR. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yes,
yeah. So like I was playing that forever, and I got really good at it for a while and was like doing tournaments and stuff. And then, over time, finally gave it up. But I was just saying this on Twitter. Actually, I shudder to think how much money I spent on that because that was like $1 per game. And I think about like how many times I played it. Like I probably like could have retired if I didn't play it.
I mean, when Mortal Kombat 3 was like in the arcade, I would come in every Friday when I got paid and got $20 in quarters and just stay at the arcade till it was all gone.
My peak at DDR, I was playing like every day. Like I literally every day at the arcades. Like from like I would get out of school and we would go straight to the mall and we'd stay there from like I don't know from like 3 to like till they kicked us out. So I mean,
there's a Japanese arcade here in town that
the round one.
It's called Gacha Gachapon. Oh. And it used to be in a really small building that looked kind of creepy, and I just never went there and then they moved it out to the suburbs, but they moved it into a mall, so it's like in a bigger spot, and they have a bunch of the games like they have in like a Japanese arcade, and I really want to go to that because I really haven't been in an arcade since I was like in almost like probably 2 decades. There's just I've been to Dave and Buster's, but that's like totally different.
Yeah, bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, those games are just silly.
But yeah, you should go. I mean, if you ever make it to Japan, the arcade scene there is still pretty crazy. Although it might not be anymore. I don't know if they're going to survive this or not. But who the fuck knows? Anyway, what do you think about the wrestling scene at the moment?
I'm on your side when it comes to empty arena wrestling. Yeah. And I just want some new stuff. Like I'm really bored. I do not want to go back and watch old stuff. I guess like I'm now starting the Matrix. I'm watching the Matrix movies, all 3 of them. But like as far as wrestling goes, it's like I don't know what subscription to get now. I canceled New Japan a while ago because I just wasn't even getting to the shows, and I don't have WWE anymore, and I had TNA for like 3 weeks, and then I canceled it because they didn't have the era that I wanted. So they don't have the Bischoff Hogan era on there at all, and that was all I want. I was just gonna lay around and watch the whole Hogan Bischoff era of TNA.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I've been into watching the old stuff. I want to I've been thinking of starting like maybe like a big all Japan 90s watch, but like that's all stuff you can't find on any streaming service. You just got to all track it all down, which becomes a pain in the ass after a while.
That's what I need. I need you to make me watch a bunch of wrestling because I enjoyed the matches that you had and you made me watch wrestling for the first time since quarantine started, except for the first few. I watched the first few Dynamites. And I watched WrestleMania. My problem is I don't even like AEW when there's fans there. So like I tried to watch the first couple of weeks and I was just like, I can't fucking do this. See, it's more watchable than WWE, but that's the only standard anyone ever holds them to. I feel like, and it's like, well, of course they're gonna pass that. I like it. I like it with fans. We do a watch party for AEW. In Columbus at a bar. We did until you weren't allowed to go to bars anymore. Up until the very last day, actually. Lockdown started the day after the
I remember that. I remember that Dynamite. Yeah.
And it was so fun. Like, and I was like, really like Dynamite is like a real revelation because I'm sitting in a room with like 30 people watching Dynamite, and the crowds are hot on TV and the people in the room are super engaged with it. And then the very next week I watched the one without an audience, and I was just like, this makes me sad. Like, this is just making me sad. And then I tried one more time, and now I'm just listening to Everything Elite every week and like getting caught up on the stories. But I can't do it. I can't sit and watch it.
I didn't really like it with the fans, so that's my big like. It was something that broke me, which is like not something that I think something that a lot of people liked, but when everybody was talking about how great the Cody MJF stuff was, and like, I was just like, this is not landing with me at all. That was like my moment of breaking with it, where it was like, okay, well, if the thing everybody says it's like the great thing about Dynamite just isn't landing with me at all, then obviously the show probably just isn't for me. So. Yeah,
I mean, I've liked most of it. There are times where I'm kind of like, I'm not super into it, but generally the stuff Cody's involved with, I actually do like that's the stuff. But again, I came up watching like WWE was like, and WCW during the Attitude Era. So like I have like a very American wrestling sensibility to myself.
Well, that's the stuff I grew up on too.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I guess I got more into Japanese after.
Yeah, right. I didn't find Japanese wrestling until like I was 38 or something like that. So it's like it's almost even still a novelty for me to watch.
Yeah, I discovered it in 2002. So I was like 16. So I mean, it was very I discovered it very early.
It's just it's easy, not easy. I don't want to say it's easy, but it's more influential to somebody that finds it at a time in their life like 16 years old, where it's like my expectations of pro wrestling. AEW meets my expectations of pro wrestling like pretty well.
I just thought I thought because, and this feels stupid now, I guess, seeing what it is, but I guess I thought because of where all those elite guys are coming from, it was going to be more of like an Americanized New Japan type of vibe. Like I thought they were going to go for that. And I was curious, like, what is that going to be like? Can they pull that off? And it doesn't feel like they ever really tried. It just feels like it was, it would, at first it was like this fucking complete hodgepodge. And then after that, it settled into, after January, it settled into this like, very like, Memphis Tony, whatever you want to call him, like him and Cody do a Mid-South or whatever, and it's like that's fine, and I get why people like it. It's just not really my thing.
Yeah, for sure. I like as soon as you I knew I watched it go down with you. I watched you stop liking it, and the funny thing is, like one of the matches I picked for this is like the moment is my MJF Cody moment. So like that's why I picked it, because I find it interesting when somebody's just like, saying it's not, this isn't for me. I'm done. I don't like this. It's like a totally reasonable way to handle something. And that like I mean for you it also like for me it's like I don't know where to look. I don't have a lot of promotions that I'm into. It seems like it seems to me like the people over at Voices of Wrestling, like you and the Aarons and like pretty much everybody, they have like a stable of promotions that they watch, like 3 or 4 Japanese promotions and then whatever American stuff and whatever indie stuff. And for me it's like I only watched the one. I watched WWE for a very long time and New Japan and what's the other Ring of Honor, but really like I don't have like a lot to pull from, and I just was like, okay, like AEW is just gonna be my one place that I'm just gonna go there. That's gonna be the thing I pay attention to. That's gonna be the thing I follow closely because I feel like anything else is going to take a large investment from me because it took me a long time to figure out. It took me a very long time to figure out New Japan. It wasn't something that caught with me right away.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not already into Japanese wrestling, I could see why that would take a while.
I mean, I wasn't into any. Like, I never watched anime. It's such a hillbilly, John. I'm really a hillbilly.
That's the other point too, is where I have trouble sometimes recommending DDT to people because I'm like, I love DDT, but like the humor is like so Japanese that there is a lot of times where it goes over my head, and it's like if it's going over, someone who's been into all this weeaboo bullshit since like, I don't know, since I was like 12 years old, then obviously I imagine it's going over lots of other people's heads, So
yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I ever considered. I mean, like, I don't know if I ever even thought about Japan until like I never thought like I need to go to Japan until like a year or two ago, where it was like I need to go to fucking Japan. Japan is the greatest place in the world. And it's like I've changed a lot. I still have only watched half of an anime series, but
what show?
Cowboy Bebop. It's Brett is an anime guy, and he's the guy I do the podcast with, and he knows me pretty well. And he was like, I think I know if there's one that you would get into, it's that one. So
you never even finished it though.
I did watch the first. I watched a lot of it and I liked it. I just didn't finish it. It did seem like a lot. Like a lot of those, whenever I've thought about getting into an anime series, I'm like, oh, there's so much. That's the other thing about some of the wrestling. It was like I felt like I don't understand New Japan history, but I understand New Japan history to like 2012. Like I understand the modern era of New Japan history. And I can enjoy New Japan in that way without knowing what was going on before this current era. And like, and like, that's the thing is like, I feel like I would have to do that all over again. Cause I've tried to watch All Japan and I just don't know who the guys are or anything like that. And I don't know. I want to be into them. I like the 0-1 match quite a bit.
Yeah. It's that's like one new. That was we'll talk about when we get to it. But yeah, I mean, like, I can totally get it. It can be hard to start. I mean, my only advice for when people do ask me this is like there's definitely been times I got into promotions for the first time, and you just have to watch until you get it. I guess like there's no easy way, especially when it's in a language that you don't understand. Because you can't get the commentators like giving you little hints or whatever. So you just kind of have to watch until you get it. I don't know. It's just kind of, I Google a lot of names pretty much. Just sit there and Google and look up and, try to remember the people's names and stuff. But yeah, as far as like, like promotions coming back and stuff, I do think Japan will come back before the US. So maybe that's something. I don't know. I don't know if you have any interest in watching Empty Arena New Japan because it sounds like they're going to do it soon. I don't even know. I really have a ton of interest in that, to be honest.
I don't think so. I don't think I can. I really don't think I can watch any Empty Arena wrestling. I really don't feel like. I just almost feel like I've seen the New Japan stuff that's been making its rounds online over the past like 24 hours. I didn't know they were doing this, but they were doing like Zoom calls and they're doing documentaries and stuff like that. I sort of feel like I know that it's a long, hard time to do this, but I feel like you just do stuff like that until you can get 200 to 300 people in a room.
I'll be honest, 300 to 500. I haven't watched any of that. So,
yeah, I mean, I haven't watched any of it. I've just seen it show up on my timeline, and I just sort of feel like I think that's sort of either that or just show old stuff. Because the empty ring stuff is just it's not working. Nope, it's not working for anybody to me. The empty arena stuff isn't working for anybody. I haven't seen anybody doing it well.
Yeah, I liked some of the Japan stuff a little bit, but it's still like a chore to watch it. So like, I don't like it that much. But like if I sit down and really force myself to watch it, some of it's okay. That's the nicest thing I can say about it. But yeah, like Japan with crowds, there is a Joshi promotion that has June 1st in Shinkiba First Ring booked, and they're selling tickets to fans. That is incredibly optimistic. This Pro Wrestling Wave company, they don't give a fuck. They're like, okay, the state of emergency expires 5/31. Great, we're running 6/1. And it's like they don't know for sure yet if they're actually going to repeal the state of emergency. They don't know if they're gonna if they won't still put in place like guidelines and say you can't run shows still even after the state of emergency is lifted. They're just fucking booking their date and they're just gonna hope for the best. So I kind of respect that kind of craziness, I guess.
Did Big Japan do that? Didn't Big Japan run after?
Well, Big Japan
supposed to.
Big Japan ran during the period before the state of emergency when it was more, unknown, I guess. Like it wasn't like a lot of companies were canceling, but it was still the government was asking basically. There was no state of emergency yet.
Okay.
So they haven't run since the state of emergency other than empty arena shows. But yeah, the state of emergency is supposed to be lifted 5/31. It's already been lifted in a lot of prefectures, but it's supposed to be lifted in Tokyo 5/31. Wave is really getting their shit in. They're we're running June 1st in Kiva with fans if we can. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, I expect most companies, assuming the virus doesn't explode again, which, it could. But I expect everybody else probably July or August maybe with 50% crowds. And, I will be happy to have, all the Japanese companies back with half crowds. But yeah. I think that will happen. I think that will happen before the U.S., or at least it should. The U.S. might just be like, okay, well, we're killing 2,000 people a day. Time to open up the fucking Orange Bowl or whatever the fuck.
Arizona is saying you can do pro sports there after May 31st. I believe so. Yeah, they said concerts and pro sports.
All right.
You got to
kill some people.
That's what that's how I've been thinking about it. It's like, well, with that promotion opening the day after the state of emergency, you really do kind of want to be there right when it's lifted because you have a really hot crowd.
Well, you have a hot crowd, and it'll probably be unlifted in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so that's why you can. Yeah, that's why it's I don't know. It feels like it's crazy to say to write off the year, but it almost feels like probably that's the decision to make.
I mean, I'm supposed to go to Japan in October, and I am not assuming I'm going to be able to go. Let's just say,
yeah,
I'll be pleasantly surprised if I go on that trip.
Yeah, but, yeah. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's a wild world.
My whole summer got canceled already because they canceled. I'm supposed to go to Europe in June. That's not happening. And then 2 conventions I was supposed to go to in July and August were both officially canceled. The airlines are being very generous, giving me $0 of my money back. So
yeah,
thank you to Delta and Alaska and JetBlue. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
But you know who was nice? Fucking Amtrak was nice. They gave me my money back.
Oh, they did?
So there you go. They gave me they took a bullshit $14 off it, but that's getting back $120 of $134 is still better than all these fucking airlines are doing. So
I think we lost money on WrestleMania weekend. Our flights out to Florida. That was the only money we lost. And then we didn't book travel yet for the May tour that we had to cancel, but we canceled 12 dates.
I mean, these airlines, supposedly they'll give you these fucking travel credit or whatever. Where the fuck am I going right now?
When? When am I ever going to be able to leave again? I don't even know if I'm going to have a job. I don't even know if the country's going to exist. And
my job is actually kind of stable. That's good, at least. That's one thing I can be thankful for. It was looking very bad for a while, but then we raised a bunch of money, so that's good.
Right, I heard you. I actually did hear you say you didn't know how your job was. It's good to hear that it's going well. I just did a whole therapy appointment today about having the conversation about not performing live in 2020 and how it destroyed me. I mean, I am launching a TV show in 3 weeks and in a Twitch stream plus the podcast, but I feel like the only metric for success that I believe in is standing on a stage and talking to people. So it's really, it's hard to be okay, there are things happening. It really, my job is super stable right now. We're doing better we're doing pretty well considering the unemployment rates and stuff like that. So it's like being stuck in the house after 4 years of traveling almost constantly. Like you were doing conventions too. Like,
it is really weird. I mean, it's very strange not having anything to look forward to, I guess.
Yes.
Like, that's basically what it comes down to. And like, I mean, I was gonna do panels and stuff. That's obviously not gonna happen. And I do miss it. I enjoy public speaking and stuff, but
me too.
I'm gonna miss just sitting there and talking to a room full of people. But
I am too. It's gonna happen again. That's the thing. Is like Brett had to make peace with it. And once he made peace with it, he started talking to me about making peace with it. And he's like, the first time we walk out there again, it's going to be fucking crazy. And I was like, you know what? That's a good point. Like I'd performed live so many times over the past 3 years that like, I wasn't even getting an adrenaline pump out of it anymore,
So you're not one of these crazy people like replying to Nate Silver that the entire world is gone and we're never going back to the real world. It's all going to be online now. This is a crazy blue check mark that tweets that shit out constantly. And I'm just like, okay, you never left your house before this, so you're hoping that no one will ever leave their house again. But I'm sorry, people are still going to want to like go out and do things. Once we think we're not going to get a deadly virus, we're still going to want to leave our houses. I talked
about this on Street Fight last night, actually, but like, it is going to take a lot for me not to go out now. Like now that things are open back up, I'm a social person. I like to go and do things and I like to be places, and I'm not going to. Before anybody says don't go make people sick, Bryan, and gets mad at me, I want to be very clear that I am not going to go out. I'm not like a protester. I'm not anybody like that. But it is going to be hard. The beer garden down the street from my house is opening up, the patio. It's going to be very hard to drive by that patio and see those people hanging out and not want to do something similar to that and be with a big group of people sitting somewhere and enjoying myself. Like, I do want to do that, but I can't, and I understand that I shouldn't do it, so I'm not going to do it. But it is it's already challenging to stay in and not do anything. That like when it feels like we aren't going to die if we go outside, it's people are going to go outside and they're going to go crazy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be the Roaring Twenties again, honestly, but I could be wrong. But I just know, like, if I start fantasizing about all the stuff I want to do after there's a vaccine, I mean, like, obviously I'm not going to be able to do all of it, but as long as I have a job, I'm still going to be able to do some of it, I think. So
yeah,
I finally want to go to fucking Vegas.
No,
I've never been to Vegas. I've never been to Vegas. I want to do it at least once.
This is the worst 3 days of 4 days. I spent 4 days.
I remember actually. You know what? I've heard this. I remember you told the story.
This is the worst 4 days of my life.
I really want to do it, but you don't like gambling, though, right? So like,
I do. I like it too much.
Oh, okay.
That's what happened. I mean, it was a really hell tour, and then we lost a bunch of money, and then the Vegas show went really bad. I left up like in my personal account, but the business took a hit, and like it was just my self-esteem took a hit, and I wasn't probably in the best place by the time I had gotten to Vegas. But yeah, it's just a hideous place. But
I feel like I should experience it once.
I wouldn't tell you. You should see it for yourself. But it's truly, truly a hideous place. Like it's so gross, and I'm a scumbag. And like I was like walking around like this is the grossest place I've ever been to. Like guys just
I will say about like random girls and stuff.
No, guys will put their arms around you and be like, "You want some coke? You want some hookers?" And like they'll try to take you to a place outside of the line so that we'll take you in a limo. We'll take. I mean, that's might be because I look like a scumbag. And like they're just like, hey, there's one of the bros that's here to party. But like the whole time I was there, I just felt like I wanted to differentiate myself from everybody and be like, hey, I'm here to work. Okay. Like, I'm just here to work. Cause I mean, I went to one of my favorite live wrestling shows when I was there, but like, I also, I left $180 up and convinced myself that gambling was my new job. And I came home and ended up losing all $180 plus 60 more. And 8 people showed up to my live show, and 8 paid. We did 8 paid, and it was just like
more than WrestleMania, Joe.
That's true. Hey, that's true. But you know, I got to smoke on stage, so I looked like Dean Martin. But it's just such a weird. Everybody's smoking indoors there. It feels like
that I'm used to, because I've been to Atlantic City a million times. So
okay, that's a weird thing too. It just is so weird. But I don't know. I would say go experience it. I just found it to be like hell.
I've almost gone a bunch of times, and every time I've almost gone, like someone has talked me out of it. So maybe you just did it again, Brian.
And the thing is, John, don't not go because of me, because I'm an idiot. And like, I was the same way about New Orleans. When I got home from New Orleans, I was like, I'm never going back to New Orleans again. And people love New Orleans. It just, when I was there, I was like, this is not for me. Like, I'm way too buttoned up for like Las Vegas and New Orleans, like those decadent party places. I think maybe I'm just like a little bit too, I'm not a buttoned up guy. Like, I'm a very open-minded person, you know, when it comes to other people's lifestyles and stuff like that. It's not like that. It's just like, I don't want to be a part of like the whole, you know, hey, show me your tits kind of thing. This is not who I'm just not a guy that's going to be outwardly publicly horny and drunk.
Right. Okay, so let's get into these 5 wrestling matches, because it's somehow been, I think, 45 minutes without talking about any of them. You know what? I can cut some of the political stuff. Maybe that's what I'll do. That's fine. If you're listening to this later, Brian and I talked politics, and I cut it out. So
need it.
But yeah, so let's start with the first of the 5 matches, which is your first pick. Walter and Timothy Thatcher versus Dominic Garrini and Tracy Williams from Evolve, January 13th, 2018. This awesome fucking match took place like 15 minutes from my house. I did not go, because I've never been. Like, the first time at La Boom, despite the fact that I could get a lift and get there in 15 minutes, is like, my first time at La Boom was over Mania weekend last year when like DDT ran it. So I don't know. I never watched Evolve except for like the very first couple shows in Rahway. I went to a couple of them, but it was never my thing. So I guess go ahead, pitch this match to me. Why did you pick it? And, you know, did you pick it, you know, for any specific reason for me, or just because you wanted to watch it? What's up with this pick?
I was into Evolve for a period of time that, like, where it looked like they were doing sort of a sports entertainment invasion angle using like TNA and X.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
What an interesting concept that was too, that they just like dropped. Like, I got in because I see this concept where it's like Drew Galloway and EC3 show up to yell at like the grappling type wrestlers and be like, this isn't what gets, you know, and I found that's an interesting storyline. I think, like, it's an interesting thing to do. And then they just stopped it right after, but I stuck around for a couple of years, and this was one of the last shows I really got into, and like was very surprised. But this match, like, I remember I was laying in bed watching this show, and everything, you know, you're watching it, and it was just like, it's okay. And then they do this long promo before this match, like they do this long segment, and then it's Tracy Williams and Dom Garrini versus Walter and Timothy Thatcher, where there's like, I like Walter, but the rest of these guys, I didn't have like any kind of connection to. They had never really connected with me. I was like not super into what they did. And this match got me to jump out of my bed. Like, I was like, oh my God. By the end of it, I was just so wrapped up into this thing. And then honestly, once it was over, I expected everybody to be talking about that match, and it just was one that never got any traction on any sorts of lists. And I thought you might like it because it's a little more. I figured, like, if I'm gonna do a thing, I want to give you a good match that like exemplifies what I like about wrestling.
You sure as fuck picked a good one.
Yeah, this was as good as this was as good as I can think of. It lodged itself in my brain, and I just think it's a really good match.
Yeah. So the wrestlers here, Walter, I've seen a bunch of times. He's very good at what he does. Tracy Williams, I believe the former Silver Ant, right? Wasn't he? He was Green Ant, Silver Ant.
He's the one that Joe unmasked.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I saw a ton of him when he started out because I was like going to every single Chikara show when he was first starting. But yeah, I hadn't seen him for a long time, and after like he started showing up, I guess in ROH, I saw a little bit of him. But yeah, he looked really, really good in this match. That's one that I was happy to see here. Dominic Garrini, I have no idea who that is. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I've ever seen him wrestle before you showed me this match or really even heard the name. I no fucking clue who that is. So that's someone.
John, he's putting on a performance of like, I feel like that I've seen him a few times wrestle. He's a Cleveland guy from AIW. Right. And I just feel like he put on the match, one of those like career defining matches here. Like, he is so great in this match. And he's in really there with a bunch of really good. I mean, he's in there with like great indie wrestlers. Like, they were all of these guys are respected and are good, considered good workers. And I feel like he fits in this match, and I would have never expected that, Yeah,
he was really good here. So I was just like, okay, I don't know what this guy is or who this guy is or what he does, but he was sure good in this match. And then Timothy Thatcher, he's a guy that, he's somewhat controversial, I think, where some people really love him. Some people, like Divorce Wrestling Flagship and many other people really hate him. I'm definitely more on the side of love, but like at the same time, it's hard because I don't watch any of the promotions that he wrestles in regularly. So I've seen him very, very infrequently. But pretty much every time I see him, I'm like, this guy fucking rules. Like, why don't I watch him more? And I really wish he'd gotten a Japan tour. I know he wanted to work Japan, but like he never could get I guess he could never get a solid spot with a Japanese promotion. Like, I would have loved to see him in pretty much any Japanase promotion. That would have been awesome. But yeah, I don't watch Brit Rez, which is where he ended up for a while. I wasn't watching Evolve, pretty much through any of his run. So I just never really saw a ton of him. But every time he would show up on my radar, I would, fucking love it. So, and now, of course, I'm never going to see him out for the rest of his career, probably, because
I know
now he's signed with WWE. But yeah, I don't know if you're a Tim Thatcher guy or not, but I thought he's awesome. I thought he was awesome here.
Yeah, I don't know if I am. Me and you have probably seen him the same amount of time. I think I saw him a few more times in Evolve, but I don't watch Brit Rest either. And I never even considered that. I never even considered. I figured he probably did a run in like 0-1 or something, like something that I don't see, or like All Japan or something like that. And the fact that he never did anything over there, to me, it's like he's like the guy that can get over, and he's the exact type of guy that can get over in Japan. Like, and he looks really good. And him and Dom Garrini, especially in this match, they really make you believe, like, his face stuff, the stuff he does with his face. I mean, he makes you believe, like, I think he does like great facials and wrestling. Like, he does these little things so well that it really makes the match seem like a different level than maybe some of the other people who the match we watched late with Okada. He's another guy that does stuff with his face that you just feel like you've convinced me. I understand this. Like, you're in pain, or they're conveying anger. And like, I know that doesn't necessarily, he doesn't do a lot of moves or anything like that. And you know, the Voices of Wrestling flagship guys, they're not super into like the grapple-y kind of thing. So I kind of get it. But like, I can't imagine watching this match and coming out and saying Tim Thatcher, I mean, he's so good in here. And I don't know. This also was an example to me that grappling style, like which 3 of the 4 guys in this match are known for, does work and can be great.
Yeah. I mean, I love that stuff. So I was wondering if you picked that on purpose because that's what I'm into normally anyway. But yeah, I love all that crap. I mean, this could have been like a fucking Hideki Suzuki Big Japan match. So I mean, this is like the kind of stuff I really like. So I was into all the grappling stuff, and then but I mean, I think even people listening to this who don't like that stuff will still probably like this match a lot because there was also like some really hard hitting striking, and you know, guys just beat each other's ass at one point. You know, like when Tracy Williams gets in there and really goes hard on Walter, and then it just kind of breaks down everybody in the ring at once beating each other's asses. I mean, this is not just a you know, it's not just a grapple match. Like, I don't want to make people think it's straight up grapple fuck. I mean, they do a lot of grappling early on, but they keep, you know, it evolves into like more of a physical match later on. But which again, Thatcher can do that. I don't know why people I don't the Tim Thatcher shit, I feel like is one of those things where everybody talks past each other. But like, you know, I just think I think he's a very good professional wrestler who, you know, sometimes wrestles a style that some people aren't going to like. And, you know, I really don't like it either when people, and I guess I might as well go on this rant now. I feel like people get too hard sometimes on individual wrestlers over crowd reactions. It's like people do that very, what's the word I'm looking for? They do that very like, you know, they'll do it on one hand, but they won't do it on the other hand. You know, they do it very selectively where it's like, yeah, I mean, Tim Thatcher during that Evolve run, I guess didn't get over with the crowds, and the crowds weren't into him. That doesn't mean that like all of his matches fucking sucked, or like, you know, all of his matches were awful, or like he's an awful wrestler. It just means like in that exact moment, what he was doing didn't get over with the crowd. And you know, maybe you could be like, oh, he should have adjusted or whatever. But it's like, you know, sometimes certain audiences just don't like certain wrestlers. I mean, fucking Dragon Gate crowds didn't really like Shinko Takagi, and I don't see that people holding that against him when he goes to New Japan and tears it up, you know? I mean, it isn't going to work with what works with one audience might not work with another audience, and I feel like people are too, you know, I feel like they're too stringent on holding that against the wrestler. So I don't know.
And maybe Evolve at that time, I don't know who was in there when he had his big championship run, but I was listening to the flagship at that time too, and was like, God, this Tim Thatcher guy must suck. And I might have even just avoided him because it was like, you know, Joe Lanza and Rich Craich hold a ridiculous sway over how I view wrestling. Like, it's just me and my brother we both listen to the show, and like my brother will give me a Joe Lanza opinion. Like at times,
he listens to this, his ego's gonna swell even more now.
Well, Joe, I actually told them recently that there was a night where I was gonna microdose mushrooms, and I accidentally mega dosed mushrooms, macro dosed, and I took too much, and I started tripping, and I hadn't expected to trip that night. I just wanted a little tinge of tripping, but I didn't want to go all the way over the edge into like you're wasted and you're grappling with your reality. But I did on accident, and I like flipped out, and I got really panicked. And then I went into my bedroom and laid face down and listened to the Voices of Wrestling flagship podcast until I could convince myself that everything was normal. And they got me through a crazy bad trip experience.
Yeah. I mean, they're a great podcast. I listened to the live show today. You know, they do, but they have very strong opinions. And, you know, it can be hard sometimes as a wrestling. I don't know. It's probably not even just wrestling. It's probably anything. Like you should listen to a lot of different opinions.
Yes.
So,
well, I do.
That's what I've always tried. That's what I've always tried to do. Well, I'm not saying you specifically. I mean anybody. Anybody listen.
Sure. Well,
like,
you just don't let some because like they kind of chased me away. And as I said, when I first watched this match, I would never have gotten excited about these 4 guys in a match. Very excited always to see Walter because I just like big guys that hit really hard. But like the other 3 were just like I could take them or leave them. And then this match made me respect all 3 of those guys. And like I really feel like Dom Garrini's doing like next level stuff in this match that is like it's a new way. I feel like he really is doing a new way of that grapple wrestling style where he's like kind of flinging himself at the person and wrapping himself around somebody and putting them in a hold instead of it just all being on the ground, Right. And I think that's something that he does very well in this match where like he'll be on, he just flings himself at somebody and ends up in an armbar or crucifix or something like that. And it's like this match really does feel like the beginning of a new version of wrestling that never materialized.
Yeah, I tweeted this out. I wish to God that AEW was more about this than what it's actually ended up being about. Like if this was what American wrestling turned into, because this is like I would watch if this was all over time, I would watch every week. Now maybe they'd be doing 150,000 viewers instead of 600,000, but I would be one of the 150 is the point. I would not, whereas I'm not one of the 600. But yeah, I would fucking, if this was what AEW turned out to be, I would adore it. Even if they just had if they just signed up these guys instead of having half of them go to fucking WWE. And I know with Walter, I think they did want him and he signed too early with WWE or whatever, but who gives a fuck? In a perfect world, if they had signed all of these guys and at least had like a fucking shooter division, a fucking badass division, a dudes doing fucking Big Japan Strong division matches with fucking, just sign Hideki Suzuki too. Why the fuck not? Like, do that. Have that division as a counterweight to the fucking goofball PWG shit. I would be way more into AEW. But
yeah,
I also feel like they need these guys. They need some guys who can fucking grapple. I said that from day one. Get some fucking wrestlers in there. I probably sound like fucking Lou Thez, but get me some guys who can fucking wrestle.
Yeah. I mean, I do wish this was a more influential match, and I do also wish that like these guys are never going to have this match again because WWE house style, the WWE house style is gonna prevent them from doing anything. This, like I said, this felt like a very innovative match, and I mean, nothing ever came of it afterwards, but it is just like it's a match that stuck in my head for a number of years, or for 2 years.
One thing I've learned especially over the course of this series is there are so many times that American wrestling could have been good, and they just always like that. I don't know if you listened to the episode we did that Steiner's Sting and Lex Luger match, but like that was a fucking blueprint in like 1991 or whatever the fuck, and WWE was just like, all right, let's get these fucking guys out of here.
Yeah,
and it's like, like every single time it feels like American wrestling is like on the cusp of greatness. They're just like, nah, let's just go back to doing bullshit. So I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. But yeah, this match is awesome. I would go like 4.25 on it. I mean, there were like maybe a couple times where it was disjointed and like, one spot or two I could nitpick, but like, like fucking nitpick bullshit. This is an awesome fucking match, and definitely one I would recommend to anyone listening, especially if you're like me and did not watch this period. I mean, it was just a really, really good match, and definitely want to go seek out more of Tim Thatcher from this period, which is probably something I'll do. I guess I have all the time in the world to do it. So
yeah.
Any final thoughts on the match before we move on?
No, I love that match, and I hope other people watch it and enjoy it because it's really it's such a cool match.
feel like a dumbass for not going, but it was like to answer my house. So my first pick was Sabu against the Sandman from ECW November to Remember 1997. Now I put this up on the Twitter poll a few weeks ago on the Okan episode, and he had his Sting versus Vader match beat this very narrowly. So I was like, damn it, I'm gonna nominate. I have to put this on a show in the future because I really wanted to watch this match again and have an excuse to watch it. And I was like, wait a second, I have Bryan coming on. That sounds perfect for some reason. So that's why I picked this for you. It's one of, I mean, I guess I'll get your opinion in a second. It's one of the worst matches I've ever seen. Like really an incredibly terrible match for a lot of different reasons. But like, it's at least a funny bad match. Like there is so much that goes wrong here that is hilarious that, even though it does drag because it's also really, really long. Yeah. It is still, a lot of it is still entertaining. I have no idea what the storyline reasons were for this match or anything. I never really watched ECW TV from like 1987. I guess at this point, like Sabu and RVD were like fucking WWF guys or something. Because like in the pre-match, I vaguely remember reading about this. Like I guess, remember when RVD did like fucking 2 episodes of Raw and, they started calling him Mr. Monday Night because of that?
Yep.
Like,
yeah, I do.
So like at that point, I guess they had like a fucking heel stable of WWF guys like Ham, Sabu, Bill Alfonso. Sabu is WWF guy. It's funny. But like Furnace and LaFon, who were in the pre-match attack that set this up. So I guess they were like these WWF heels, and Sandman was defending ECW or something. But yeah, I picked this because I remember it being an absolute train wreck. It's been a long time since I saw it. And I also know, like, when I was first, I guess, getting into the, quote unquote, internet wrestling community in like the early 2000s, like reading about this match and like about this, just ECW in general, it just seems like this match was like a major flashpoint in the internet wrestling community at the time, because like the people who absolutely loved ECW and like thought they could do no wrong insisted it was good. And everybody else was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, in what way is this match good? So I thought it'd be interesting to see how it holds up in 2020 eyes. It's definitely been long time since I watched it. It was a tables and ladder match from somewhere called Monaca, Pennsylvania. I guess that's by Pittsburgh, right? Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I thought it was in Philly, actually.
I think they might have said at one point that it was near Pittsburgh. I could be wrong. I don't really know Pennsylvania geography that well.
That's a big crowd, though, for not being a major city. They really drew on this show.
I'm going to look this up because it's going to bother me if I don't look it up. But Monaca, Pennsylvania, there you go. It's about 25 miles northwest of Pittsburgh.
Okay. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense because people could drive in from Cleveland and Pittsburgh because I was like, wow, that is a huge that was the thing that struck me right away was it was a huge audience and
a huge audience that didn't care about this match.
They didn't. They really didn't. That was the thing. They were pretty hyped at the beginning of it too. Like during Sandman's entrance, I know that like they mess around with a lot of the sound on the old ECW shows. So I do know that it's harder to get an idea, but the crowd seemed pretty hot for this match in the beginning. But I gotta say, I agree with you because I enjoyed watching this match. It is a terrible match. It is it's unfathomable. It's almost unfathomably, fascinatingly terrible.
So let's go through it. First of all, what is the fucking point of having a match where, quote, I'm just quoting Joey Styles here, the use of tables and ladders is not only allowed, but encouraged? In fucking ECW? Aren't they allowed in every fucking match?
I thought so too. That's also funny. That's why they have to say and encouraged. It's like we're so fucking crazy that we're gonna encourage them to use the as though using ladders and tables in a WWE ladder match is discouraged. Like, well, it's distasteful to use them, but you're
allowed. But we're not gonna fucking really encourage you to do it. You shouldn't do it. It's allowed. But no, Because I remember when the only reason why I'm 100% sure of this is because when they relaunched ECW and WWE and then added in those Extreme Rules matches, which meant the non-Extreme Rules matches were not, I guess, didn't have anything goes. Everybody was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Extreme Rules matches? That's all of ECW." Yeah. So people were like really pissed off about that. But yeah. So anyway, I'm pretty certain that ladders and tables were allowed all the time, but they were encouraged here.
Before I forget about this, because I'm a little bit stoned too. There is a spot in this match that is one of the most incomprehensible spots I've ever seen in wrestling.
I probably have it written down, but go ahead. Let's hear which one this is. I want the listener to know something. I have like 4 or 5 spots written down that Bryan could be talking about right now. Okay? I do not know which spot Bryan is talking about. There are at least 3 to 5 spots in this match that Bryan could be talking about. But go ahead, Bryan. Which one are you talking about?
The one I'm talking about is Sandman makes a big show of making everybody in the front rows back up around this area. They all back up. He takes a ladder and he sort of he leans it on the audience side of the barricade. So it's up sort of like a seesaw or a teeter-totter. Then he gets back in the ring and does a dive where he grabs that ladder and like tries to hit. It's like a needlessly complicated move that also doesn't work doesn't work at all. I don't even think he hit him.
So I definitely have this one written down. This is like late in the match, but this one was so insane. I was like talking in the Voice Wrestling Slack about this match, like as I was watching it, and I'd already been talking about all these different spots. But I'm like, okay, this one is so crazy. I'm just going to record my television and show it to you because I can't describe it. Yeah, I mean, he basically, I wrote like a very long paragraph. It's probably the worst spot in wrestling history. So, no. I actually, you know what? I wrote that about a different spot.
Oh, really? Because this was one of the worst. But that one happened before.
But this one, this one happened after. Okay. Here's what, like you said, Sabu is on the floor. Like you said, Sam sets up a ladder. When he does this dive, okay, Sabu is leaning on the apron. And Sandman runs to the ropes, jumps over the ropes, jumps past Sabu, makes no contact with his body. And I guess the idea is that he's supposed to be doing a seesaw with the ladder into Sabu, but that does not happen. Instead, he just lands, and there's a long pause, and then he just grabs the ladder and throws it at Sabu.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have just stood there and grabbed the ladder and thrown it at Sabu. He did not have to do a dive over Sabu onto the floor to then throw the ladder at Sabu. I mean, it could not have looked worse. But yes, there was another spot that I called the worst spot in wrestling history. Let's go through it. I have these in order, so let's say. Sabu starts out by immediately hitting a triple jump moonsault where he seemed to land hard on his own thigh, which looked like it sucked. I'm like, oh, that was an omen, I guess, in hindsight. And the crowd dies almost immediately when the match starts. And it's like, well, what the fuck? You were like really into, like you just were saying, you were really into the Sandman entrance. And, I watched a couple of their matches in the show because I was like, were they dead the entire night? I'm like, no, they were into it early. I mean, they must have just the crowd must have just gotten killed by like too much stuff or something, which I think happened, with some frequency on ECW because this was the semi-main event. So maybe they're just a little fried by that point. But yeah, you'd think 2 of the biggest stars in the company fighting in this garbage match would be like a big deal, but they go dead pretty much immediately. So that's interesting. Like before they're really starting to fuck things up either. And then so at one point, Sandman grabs a table, okay, and he just kind of falls backwards while holding the table and very lightly drops it on Sabu, which Joey Styles, bless his heart, is charitable enough to call a table suplex.
Yes.
I'm like, sir, that is a table suplex. If you use a lot of imagination, maybe. He just kind of fell backwards and lightly dropped his table. Really was not a table suplex. And then he says, Joey Styles gives a long pause and says, we knew this wouldn't be pretty, and boy are we right. I'm like, Joey Styles already knows this sucks.
They also the thing about it is it does seem like they had idea, like they were trying to do something innovative in the ring.
They were trying. This entire match is basically they set up spot after spot after spot, and almost all of them go wrong. So I'm sure it must have been immensely frustrating for them. I mean, there is probably a universe where every spot hits, and this match is some fucking ECW classic, but it sure wasn't this universe. So, so Sandman, he tries to put Sabu on a table, like hanging up between the guardrail and the ring, and he just kind of like grabs his head and just kind of like bonks it, not very hard at all. The table immediately breaks. And Sabu goes through it with like that's this entire match. A bunch of stuff that looks like it must have fucking hurt, but it also looks like shit.
Those tables are so bad in this. Like no cooperation from the tables at all. That's where you're like, maybe Joey Janela's right to have switched to the doors, because these tables were just crumbling. It was almost like they got old tables from WWE and like glued them together.
I guess so. Sandman, he goes to the top rope and tries for a leg drop on Sabu while he's hung up in the railing, and completely misses him. The idea is he was supposed to do the leg drop, the guillotine leg drop on Sabu while he's hung over the railing with the table underneath him, and he'd like do the leg drop on Sabu, and Sabu would go through the table, which I guess would have looked cool, but he did not even touch a hair on Sabu's head. He dropped the table, and Sabu fucking sells it, by the way. I'm like, he did not touch you at all, sir. I mean, Sabu just kind of like gently falls off the railing he was on, and he still sells it. I'm like, okay. Like, I guess the force of the wind of Sandman coming down. So
if the crowd was hotter, though, you could say like they were not expecting Sandman to do high spots like that. And
yeah, Sandman was trying.
Yeah, the audience is. I think they were pretty charitable with him after the first few like really missed things,
Yeah, we got the first loud chant of the match. Sit the fuck down. People can't see, I guess, because all the people at ringside are standing. They finally successfully hit a spot, and they're like fifth or sixth try, with Sabu hitting the chair jump leg drop on Sandman through a table between the ring and apron. That is the first spot that successfully hits at this point in the match. Then Sabu, he whips Sandman into the corner. Sandman clearly thought he was supposed to do an Irish whip counter, so he starts to do it. He turns around and starts to pull Sabu. Sabu did not know they were doing an Irish whip counter, so he does not come with him. So Sandman just kind of like, there's this amazing shot of Sandman reaching for Sabu, like, come back, and like slowly falling down. Which is like, I rewatched this like 5 times because I was laughing harder each time. He's like, no, Sabu, and it just kind of like stumbles down like a drunk, which is, I guess, very fitting, but it's really fucking funny. And then, okay, here's the spot I call the worst in wrestling history. Sabu, he climbs to the top rope, okay, and he sets up this giant ladder, and the Sandman is laying on a table on the floor. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think they were trying to do here. I believe Sabu was supposed to ride this ladder down to the Sandman, who was very far away because this ladder is gigantic. So, in theory, he should have been able to ride it down and get to him with no problem. So, and then ride the ladder down to Sandman and leg drop him through the table. What actually happens is Sabu just kind of falls off the ladder part of the way down. He hits the ground with a horrific-looking feet-first landing that he had no way to prepare for. He could have broken both his fucking ankles, honestly. It's amazing that he didn't. The ladder just comes down on Sandman, which also looked like it was incredibly painful. And you can see Sandman go, oh my God. And the table tips over with Sandman on it, and Sandman just falls to the ground. So it's the ultimate wrestling combo. Like, the crowd is like buzzing, like, oh my God, what is Sabu doing? This is gonna be crazy. And then that entire sequence happens, and the crowd just goes, oh, like you can almost hear them like, go, oh my God, that's it. But so it looked like shit and got no reaction. But I guarantee you that was incredibly painful for both men.
Yeah,
so very, very painful, but also look like absolute garbage. So that's why I think it's a strong candidate for the worst spot in wrestling history.
I spent like a lot of this match remembering times where me and Brett got on stage and the audience cheered for us, and then just nothing worked. For the first 15, 20 minutes of the show, then it gets in my head, and then for the rest of the show, and it's just like, that did not meet my standards for what a good live show is. And like, I can feel it in the moment. And I gotta feel like both of these guys were like, this is a dud. Like 10 minutes. How long is this match?
It's 21 minutes.
It feels
21 minutes.
It feels like a half.
Hours.
Yeah, it feels like it goes on forever. Like I think it's funny because you hear Paul Heyman knows how to accentuate the best parts of people and hide the worst parts, and it's like, why is Sandman in? But I guess Sandman maybe had other good matches with Sabu, and they were just like, they can do it again. And I do think that some of the spots were very ambitious, but also like not well thought out.
Yeah. So Sandman tries to cover this up with a fucking somersault plancha off the top rope to the floor, with Sabu rolling out of the way and Sandman falling through the table. That was actually kind of cool. And he keeps doing these fucking somersaults even after he busts his head open. So a sentence I never thought I would say, the best part of this match was the Sandman flipping. Yeah. Like, that's literally it. Him doing these fucking somersaults was the best part of this match.
Yeah.
So by a mile. That was like the only thing that was hitting. He should have just done nothing but flips. It should have been fucking Will Ospreay in this match.
I think so too.
Every time he tried that, it works. So I don't know.
And every time he does like a top rope move or high spot or something like that, it's very exciting because he does not look like he can do it.
Yeah. I mean, his somersault plunges and shit, his little flip for the best part of this match. So, but yeah, then I just, at this point, I just wrote my notes. I can't believe this is still going. And they're just fucking tossing shit at each other at this point. Because I think they're both just very frustrated over everything so far. And then the one we talked about already happens where, the Sandman leaping ladder thing, what the fuck. But yeah,
that looks like kids playing. That looks like when you're playing like fight with your friend when you're like 8.
Yeah.
Like, I got an idea. This is gonna rule, and then it like doesn't execute at all.
Yeah. But yeah, he does like another somersault on Sabu through a table on the floor. It looks pretty decent, and that finally gets an ECW chant out of the dead crowd. And then just when the match, they've hit like 2 spots in a row that look okay, and just when that finally happens, the match grinds to a fucking halt because we have a 10-hour long Sandman and Bill Alfonso stare down while Sabu tries to light a fucking fireball that doesn't want to light. And then he finally tries to throw it, and it completely fucking misfires, and the crowd again just goes, ugh. Like, you can hear they're getting really annoyed at this point. At least Sandman did not bother to sell the Phantom Fireball. So
it hit the referee.
I didn't even notice that. That's awesome. And then Sabu finally mercifully ends it with the Atomic Arabian Facebuster with the ladder, which thankfully at least mostly landed. And boy, does this live up to the hype as one of the worst matches of all time. But
not good.
Did I enjoy myself watching this more than like your average 2.5-star WWE match? I sure did. It was horrible and it dragged it forever, but there were a lot of moments here I'll never forget for the rest of my life. So definitely a negative star match, and they should have gone like 10 minutes tops. But it's a negative star match that if you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. You have to watch this match. It is almost breathtaking how much they fuck up. So I would definitely recommend it. Had you ever seen this before you watched it here?
I hadn't. No, this was my first time seeing it, and it was fantastic. It really was a very good time for me watching this match. I just I had just got home from work, and I was tired and burned out, and this match kept my attention the whole time.
I mean, it definitely will do that, I think. But yeah, so that was one bad match. Let's go from one bad match to another. Your second pick, Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose, WWE, April 3rd, 2016, WrestleMania 32. I mean, you already talked a little bit about why you picked this, but I guess go ahead and tee it up.
So this was a major turning point for me because I sort of felt like this match was pretty decently built by WWE standards. Like I even watched the video package before I watched it this time.
I did too.
And I watched it and I was like, this okay, like this sounds decent. I mean, it was goofy, but it's like you can't expect WWE to actually not be goofy. It like you have to make peace. If you're going to watch it, you have to make peace with the fact that it's going to be bad. And I was very excited about this match too. And when this was announced, this was one of the last times I was ever excited about a WWE match. I quit watching at like this is when I washed my hands of WWE and just, I can't watch.
Oh, I think you broke up there a second. You just said you can't watch it.
Also, I want to say that I can't watch that's when I decided I can't watch WWE anymore. But I want to say that on this viewing, this match not as bad as I remember it being.
It wasn't technically
did
bad.
I lose you, John?
Oh, can you not hear me?
No, I can hear you now. I can hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it wasn't technically bad, but it was still awful, and we can talk about why, I guess. But yeah, let's talk about like what leading up to. Like you said, the pre-match video, right? It's basically just, I mean, the entire story. This is Brock killing this man over and over and over again. And, Dean is too tough. He won't stay down. He keeps getting up, blah, 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 blah. But like that story only works if eventually the babyface gets to win in the end. This match is Brock destroying Dean Ambrose. I mean, fucking murdering him with these fucking over the head, belly to bellies and German suplexes and everything. Dean will get a weapon and he'll get like a minute of offense maybe, or 30 seconds, maybe not even that. And, Brock will fucking take the candlestick and break it over his knee because he doesn't need no fucking weapon. He just beats the shit out of Dean again. And I'm like, this entire match is a giant fuck you to their audience. I mean, that's what it is. It is them saying, we don't care that you like Dean Ambrose. We don't care that you want Dean Ambrose to do well. We're going to fucking push whoever the fuck we want to push, and fuck you. And you know what? It's not like the audience hasn't reacted to that statement. I mean, people think WWE can do whatever they want and, nothing will ever matter and blah, 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 because, they're making all this money. But at the same time, Raw is under 2 million viewers a week. And there's a good fucking reason for that. And if you want to look at, and people always point to that Roman Reigns Rumble, and that's a big part of it. But man, I think this match is another big moment where it's just like, they are never going to change. They like Brock, and I think there's a certain kind of internet wrestling fan that gives them a pass for the Brock thing because, Brock is fun to watch. I mean, it is fun to watch him kill people, and it is fun to watch. He is good at what he does. He's a very good pro wrestler. He's had some very good matches. He's had some of the only good matches out of that company in, the past few years, like for Daniel Bryan and shit like that. But like, people give him a pass when his booking is as big of a reason for like the complete destruction of that company as anything. I mean, like you cannot have, and I'm doing a rant that I guess a million people have done before, but he wrestles 5 matches a year and he kills the entire roster. And if you want to know why the entire roster right now feels like nothing matters, nobody matters, and who gives a fuck about any of this? I mean, that is a big fucking reason because, Brock's not there. Brock kills everybody and Brock loses in 2 minutes and then disappears again. He'll come right back and kill everybody again. And, I mean, it is what it is. And he's beaten everybody on this roster and he never gets anybody else over. And, it's by the time they did it with Seth, they did it by Seth kicking him in the balls. And, I didn't watch the Drew match. I don't know. How did Drew beat him?
I didn't watch the Drew match either. I couldn't. I just was like, this match with Ambrose really did that was almost when I got soured on Brock. And really it's the aftermath of this match that soured me on the company and the way they booked Brock, because there is stuff that they've done with Brock Lesnar that I've enjoyed. I enjoyed almost all of it, and I still kind of enjoy it. But here, I remember the Stone Cold podcast, right? And this was a big story. The Dean went on there and said Brock didn't want to do anything. And that he kept pitching him ideas, and he kept saying, no, we're not going to do that. And that this match was all that, he was willing to do. I mean, there was nothing planned out. And like Ambrose needed to have he needed to have the weapons. So he pulls out a chainsaw at some point in the match, but nothing ever happens with it, which I don't know what can happen.
Not only that, he goes to start it and it doesn't start. So he looks like a fucking dipshit, and then Brock just kills him again.
Yeah.
That's the entire point. Like, what is the point of introducing a chainsaw if the entire point was going to be to make Dean look like an idiot?
Yeah, this match doesn't make him look tough, and it doesn't make him look good. And also, this is a really good example of the wrong finish. I think that this match is 3. I don't star rate much, so I don't know if this means anything. I think this match is like a 3.5 star match if Ambrose wins in the end. Maybe even 4. But like the finish makes you feel bad. Like that was one of the times where I just said, this made me feel bad. I don't like this. It's like not a good feeling.
Yeah. And that became like their specialty, and it's like they would bring out Brock to fucking beat whoever the fuck it was. And, I don't know. I mean, there's no real point ranting about it because I think everybody knows by now, and, no one gives a fuck anymore. But 4 years ago, I think we were still on the precipice of people still could care. And now when you watch these shows, and I mean, you had one of the all-time great tweets during the Royal Rumble this year. Do you remember your tweet?
I do not know.
Okay. When you were like, people just come to WWE shows as a quiet place to think now, which that's one of my favorite tweets ever. That was a great tweet. Because they don't fucking make any noise for anything. Unless if it's The Undertaker showing up to choke slam AJ Styles, if it's some other old guy showing up to fucking do something, then, I mean, it's not like they don't know how to make noise. They fucking go crazy for that. But for everything else, they sit on their hands because they've been taught repeatedly that none of these people matter. That none of them matter. Yeah, go ahead.
You're not going to get the ending that you want. Like this is a very good match to show somebody that says, this is a very good match to show somebody that says they're just putting smiles on people's faces. It's like, no, nobody likes this. And this was
like 12 weirdos. Like 12 weirdos on Twitter.
Right. This was a layup, and both guys were so over. Like Dean Ambrose was the pop when he came out was just as loud as the Brock Lesnar one. And that's like a really hard thing to get to happen in that company. Like people that, this was like the shot. This was like the way to, I don't know. Like he just seems like he could have been like a mega star guy, He
was the moment he left the company.
Yeah. And he's great. Yes, exactly. And Nets, he's just an example of them being like, nah, fuck you. He's not like the guy that we want to be the guy, so we're not going to let him. They did push him pretty hard, though. He did have he was at the top of the card for upper mid card to the main event for a lot of his run, but it always was something like he came out on the shit end of every feud in the end. Yeah. They just beat him. And this match was just such a letdown. And I really think could have been a great WrestleMania match with just 3 or 4 tweaks to this thing. And it's really good because as I was watching, I was like, this isn't as bad as I remember it being. And then as soon as it's the end and he's going for that F5, that single F5 so that he can pin him, you're like, oh, it lets all the air out and you just can't care anymore.
Especially when Brock goes for the first F5 and Dean turns it into like he turns it into his finisher, doesn't he? The dirty DZT or whatever on a chair, and Brock just kicks out. So this just kills fucking finisher too. Why not? And it's like I don't know. I mean, like they want Brock to be this fucking bigger than life thing, but I'm like, at a certain point, it's like, what does that get you at the expense of the entire fucking roster? It's like it's a very bizarre thing. And like I said, I think people give it a pass because, you know, I mean, I get it. Like, I enjoyed watching him kill the entire roster on that Royal Rumble. I mean, it was fun, but like at the same time, I'm not someone who cares if WWE does well or not. I think if you watch that and you sincerely want WWE to like be good and have fans, you should have fucking hated that, because it's like, what the fuck is the point of having Brock kill the entire roster again? I mean, he's done that 50 times already.
He didn't have to wrestle Dean Ambrose in this match either. I think that's another thing that we put out there. If Brock needed to win this, if we were going to have to give Brock like a win at WrestleMania, he maybe could have wrestled somebody else and
They never have to give Brock a win when a fucking old guy is around. The old guys can always fucking beat him.
Yeah.
But Goldberg can fucking beat him. Undertaker can beat him. Hunter can beat him, but not Dean. I mean, they find them by the time they finally do it, it's like, well, how does Seth Rollins beat him? Kick him in the balls.
Yep.
And then he goes around calling himself the Beast Slayer. It's like, it's so fucking stupid.
Yep.
And I guess he eventually beats him clean at SummerSlam, but then they do that Bray Wyatt thing right after. So I don't know. But by 2019, it's already fucking dead. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is like 2015, 2016, like this is where, they had a shot and they just fucked it up repeatedly. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. No point in talking about WWE booking. It's terrible. But the match is, I guess, kind of interesting as a turning point match. I don't think I like it like as a match as much as you do. I think it's, the Brock, like, oh, I'm the big monster stuff doesn't really work as well for me here. I just think it's kind of like, okay, we get it. How many more suplexes you need to do to him, buddy?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes him look like a dork when he like steps on the fucking.
I like that. See, that's where I'm like, okay, I like this if Dean wins. Like, this is great, but that's not what happens. So,
But yeah, I mean, I would go like 2.25 or something. I don't know, 2.5. Just not.
I mean,
much.
I would say,
off. It's just.
I would say, this is like better than a TV match, like an average TV match, I think.
So let's go over to my second pick, which was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Kohei Sato from 01 Max on March 2nd, 2008. So I don't think I'd ever seen this match before it aired on Samurai TV this past month. They've been like airing a lot of older shows because, they don't have anything new to air, so they are very limited new shows to air. But yeah, this is from their 7th anniversary show at Corkin Hall. It's right in the middle of the big New Japan versus 01 Max interpromotional feud, which is really, really, really cool. I don't know if you can see some guys at ringside. Like, there's like a young Naito at ringside. There's like a young Yujiro Takahashi at ringside. It's like all those guys were in matches earlier in the night, and they're in like these very intense matches against these 01 young lions. So like that stuff is all really good. This match, though, was the main event of that show. It was not for the IWGP Heavyweight title, even though Nakamura is a champion here. And Shinya Hashimoto, he had passed away about 2.5 years before this. They still used his image a lot for like the anniversary aspect of it. And, this is basically like Kohei Sato is not like his protege, I don't think, but like he is kind of like the big 01 prospect who actually made it, It's the best way to put it. Like, they tried a lot of guys as like, to bring up in this era. And he's like the only one I could think of that's like still active to this day and still a pretty big main eventer. Like, he just lost the 01 title, the 01 world title like last week, I think. So, he's still kicking, he's still around. And, he had a really famous tag team with Shuji Ishikawa, the Twin Towers, which are a really awesome tag team for a while. And I just always liked him because he's this big dude who looks like he should be in the fucking Yakuza, Like, he just looks like he's someone if you walked into in a back alley in fucking Tokyo, you'd like walk in a direction. So, but yeah, he beats the piss out of people and just isn't afraid to take some sick blows back. He was only 30 years old at this point, but he already had held a whole bunch of titles at 0-1. Nakamura was even younger. He was only 28 at this point. So this is like the battle of the two young aces of New Japan in 0-1. But yeah, it's also like I said, the Hashimoto Memorial match. That's why the ring announcer looks like he's going to cry when he's doing the announcements, if you were confused by that.
It's the crowd is so hot for this.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know any of the backstory, but I did get the feeling of I did understand that this was a big deal, because I had never seen, and I don't even remember his name now, that Nakamura's wrestling.
Yeah.
Was it
Sato.
Sato? Okay. Yeah, I had never seen him before. I'd never heard of him before, but I could tell he was like he was a big deal. And he is a guy that looks very tough. Like, where like he's a bigger guy he was bigger than Nakamura, but not like huge, and not like a New Japan, but not like the less defined body. But he does seem like he kicks ass, and I feel like I did get an idea for what he is, or what to compare him to by watching this match. He was very cool.
And I picked this for you because, first of all, I figured you were not up on 0-1 Max from 2008. So I figured there was no chance you'd seen it. But yeah, when I saw this match, I was like, oh, this would be a cool one to give to Bryan as like a totally random, like, Japanese indie type match. But like, at the same time, it has a guy that you are familiar with, because I'm sure you've seen Nakamura. So
I've never seen him like this. I was pretty shocked at like his moveset in this match, because I thought I understood Nakamura, and I don't have any understanding of him after watching this.
He was very different at this point. Yeah, he was still like in the more. I mean, what Nakamura was doing was much more traditional New Japan at this point, before they moved away from that in the Bushiroad era, where like they're everything is supposed to look really very like a heavy focus on like realism and holds and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can see him getting away from a little bit because he does a fucking moonsault very early on, but like it's still very much in that like quasi strong style. But yeah, I mean, like, the other thing I like about the match too is like I've always like one of the things that drew me to Japanese wrestling, pretty much immediately, is I love the interpromotional stuff. Like, I love it when you have all these different promotions that all just like fucking fight each other constantly, and I feel like that does not exist at all really in American wrestling. I mean, there's like a few little things, like there's the Ring of Honor CZW feud that's very famous, but like I feel like it happens very rarely here. Whereas Japan, it happens like all the time. I mean, they have interpromotional feuds pretty on a regular basis, dating all the way back to like the 80s. So, it's a very regular thing there. So yeah, this is like a New Japan 0-1 feud. So you get that like home team versus away team thing that you don't really get, I think, in American wrestling. So
for sure. I mean, with the first match I picked it. I got into that company because I thought they were doing an invasion that was like sort of like a TNA WWE invasion to Evolve. And like, it is fascinating that they're able to work together. And was this, where do you know where this match was? Was this in Korakuen Hall?
It was Korakuen, yeah.
It was Korakuen. And like I guess people just sort of go down brand lines, because it did really feel like both guys were, it wasn't like, it seemed like both guys were over in this match. People aren't necessarily taking sides between promotions, or am I wrong about that? Like,
some New Japan fans showed up, I think, is what happened. And that's why they do these interpromotional feuds, because you get to draw from other promotions' fan bases too and stuff. But like, yeah, I think there were some New Japan fans there to cheer on Nakamura, and then the 0-1 fans would try to drown them out, and they would boo Nakamura when he would do anything. So,
and 0-1 was, they were competing at this point with New Japan.
I mean, it's New Japan. It's a long story. 0-1 probably originally was supposed to be like another brand of New Japan. Like, that was probably the original idea, and then they were going to like feud them with New Japan. but which they had that idea before. They did that in the 90s with UFO, I think it was called, where Inoki started his own, like, Antonio Inoki wanted to start his own UFC offshoot, and then eventually just turned into a fucking rival brand to feud with New Japan. But anyway, so they were supposed to start this like offshoot, which I think was originally going to be called either just 0 or 00, because it was supposed to start in 2000, and then it got pushed back to 2001, and it became 01. So the entire roster pretty much came from New Japan. Like Shinya Hashimoto, was one of the big stars in New Japan in the 90s. But then like Shinjiro Otani, Tatsuhito Takaiwa, like pretty much all those guys. And Ogawa, who showed up later on, like, they all came from New Japan. So, and then they eventually got their own, like they started using a lot of California indie guys at the time. And, even like a lot of Ring of Honor guys went over there early in the early 2000s. Like that's the only Japanese tour CM Punk ever did, I think, was the 01. And like Samoa Joe worked there and a bunch of other guys. Steve Corino worked there for a long time. And that was pretty much how he started out in Japan. But yeah, they started out as like this weird, you weren't really sure if it was a shoot or a work, but then it became increasingly clear that if it had been a work, it was now a shoot. So basically they were a New Japan offshoot that probably was originally not supposed to be a real promotion, but it quickly turned into a real promotion. So that's, I guess, the Cliff Notes version. But yeah, by this point, because they have that like weird thread, the fact that they came from New Japan, they've kind of always, there's been like a connection there, throughout their history. And they've been a bunch of like New Japan guys would go there a lot. And, they've been a bunch of New Japan versus 01 feuds. But this was like the big one, basically. Like New Japan guys were there all the time at this point, and they were just on each other's shows. And New Japan versus 01 was like the big thing for early 2008. So
it's so cool. I mean, this is I remember when I got into New Japan was right around when Noah was doing this, but I didn't have like a super understanding that Noah was like a whole different company. I thought it was like I probably just thought it was a faction in New Japan. And
well, remember what it was like, right? When Go Shiozaki would show up like on the G1 final, and the fucking New Japan fans would just fucking boo him out of the building. He's a baby, Noah, but the New Japan fans fucking hated him. But
yeah. That's so cool, though. You really wish that there was some way that something like this could happen here. Like, even if it was, I mean, I would love to see ROH versus AEW at some point.
Really just thinking about that, because they said ever since Marty took over that the door's open. I mean, they should do that fucking feud. I mean, I honestly think they should. Like, when else in America have we seen a big interpromotional feud in the last I don't know, fucking 20 years? Like, since Ring of Honor CZW, when's it, like, we haven't really seen one. I don't know, unless I'm forgetting something obvious, but I don't think I am.
Right, and there's a real story there too. Like it kind of the way you were describing New Japan 01. There is like a story there where these guys left Ring of Honor to die. Yeah, and that's why. But I guess like people would probably say like they're kind of bringing themselves down to Ring of Honor level instead of.
See, that people say shit like that, but it's like you could have said the same thing about Ring of Honor to CZW in 2006, but that benefited both companies. I mean, sure as fuck benefited Ring of Honor. They were the hottest. They were like the hottest fucking thing. And I don't know. I honestly don't. I mean, look, when New Japan was doing this at 01, you could have said the same thing again. Like, New Japan was lowering themselves to 01, but it was a hot fucking feud and people were into it. So honestly, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, true. I agree with you on that.
Like, I get maybe not doing it this year, like if you want to establish AEW or whatever, but I mean, I would absolutely do it in like 2021 or 2022 or something. Like,
yeah, and it could really catch. That's the sort of thing that could really catch fire if people started like that's the kind of thing that gets people talking. I think like these two companies are working together in America. Like, I don't know who hears it and it gets excited about it, but I think people would actually talk about that.
I mean, it would get me to watch every week again, probably. So
yeah. I mean, it would get. I would. it would be interesting to talk about with people too. There's a lot of interpromotional politics that would exist too, and I do think it would cause people to talk about wrestling in a way that it feels like they haven't been doing for a while.
Yeah. But back to this match, it starts out with like a feeling out period, including like some really solid grappling here, more like what we talked about in the first match with some cool mat stuff. And then it really picks up when there's like this big forearm exchange in the ring, which leads to this huge Nakamura like counter lariat coming out of the corner, which looked really great. And Nakamura to me is not a guy that does lariats a lot, so it was kind of surprising, but he threw a great one there. So. And then he hits a moonsault to like gigantic boos, which was like, I was like, when is the last time we saw a moonsault get booed out of the building? It was very funny.
Also, I didn't know that was in Nakamura's. Like, I don't know why. Maybe he does it every time, and I just forgot.
No. You know what I think? Do you know what I think it was? I think he was channeling Keiji Muto because Hashimoto was like one of the three musketeers. So I think, which was like Hashimoto, Muto, Chono. So I think he was doing it like to do like one of Hashimoto's big rivals moves because he's like, he's supposed to be the heel here and Sato's supposed to be fighting for Hashimoto. So I think that was the idea.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that was the idea. And then he gets cocky and tries a second moonsault, which Sato gets his knees up for. So that was kind of cool. And then Sato here, he starts kicking the absolute piss out of Nakamura, and it gives a big like Shinya Hashimoto pose, which is cool. But then Nakamura just tries to fucking choke his ass out with a sleeper, and that probably is my favorite part of the match because Sato sells this really well, and I love shit like this where guys just like, fuck you, I'm just gonna choke you out and win this fucking match. I don't give a shit about looking cool or looking having a good match, whatever. We're just gonna choke your ass out. But instead of going, go ahead.
It's interesting, John, that I thought I bought this 100%, this sleeper. I thought that you had me watch this match because it ended with a sleeper for a second. Like, that's how good the selling was like, I think this probably ends with a sleeper, like that's what's that's like, I don't know. I just thought I bought into it that much. That's pretty rare for a wrestling match.
And then he follows up with the landslide, which is his very shitty looking old finisher, which is like he has him up in a Samoan drop position and just kind of like slams the guy. I always hated that move, and I'm glad he was already starting to move away from it here because then Sato kicks out of it. But yeah, then Sato almost kills Nakamura with this running knee and then hits his awesome bridging German suplex for a near fall. Nakamura escapes another German attempt. He catches a charging Sato with a glancing kick, which honestly could have looked better. That probably is a big flaw there at the end of the match. And then gets the armbar takedown into the cross arm breaker. And this is, again, very old school in Japan. The guy, he gets the cross arm breaker on, and after the struggle, Sato taps immediately. Because, again, in a real fight, you get an armbar on, the guy's going to tap immediately, So,
yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was a very good match. It's not like an all-time classic or anything, and there's some stuff I would have liked to see look better. But it's a fun battle between two guys who would – this is their first and only meeting. They had this match in 2008, and they never wrestled again. They're in two different promotions. Their paths just never crossed again. And I think they probably could have had a even better match than this if they met up again in like 2015 or something, but it just didn't happen. So I would go like 3 3/4 on this, maybe even 4 flat. So, again, not like a super classic match, but a really good one, and one that I think is an interesting historical curiosity.
Yeah, it's a fun. I enjoyed watching the match and not even knowing the story, not knowing the backstory, but kind of, I guess I was like creating my own story in my head. But it was a good match. It was very fun. It was very good to watch, and it was like unexpected. That some of the Nakamura stuff was unexpected to me, and I enjoyed it. I would definitely watch more stuff like that.
And I think if you enjoyed that, you probably like a lot of 0-1 from this period. It's probably very similar to their style in general. And then afterward, Nakamura presents the IWGP belt to a very young Daichi Hashimoto at ringside. I don't know if you saw that or not, but that was young Daichi that he gave the belt to.
No, I did not. I didn't see that. I think I stopped it when it was done because I was tired.
But yeah, I think they introduced a new title right after this. I'm not sure if it was the current one or if there was another stopgap. But yeah, he gives that IWGP belt that Shinya Hashimoto had held for a long time to his son. And Daichi was supposed to be the big hope of 0-1, but it just didn't. I mean, now he's in Big Japan, so you can figure out how that worked out. It didn't work out very well for 0-1, but yeah. So do you have anything else about this match or no?
No, it was a good match.
Let's move over to the fan vote match: Kazuchika Okada versus Katsuyori Shibata, New Japan, April 9th, 2017. So you told me you were going to nominate this match, and I was like, okay, well, what the fuck am I supposed to put up against one of the greatest matches of all time that's going to possibly have a chance in hell of winning? So I figured whatever I put up had no chance in hell of winning anyway. So I'll put up as a joke the Money in the Bank 2020 match. And the problem was the Money in the Bank match started out by running away with the vote. I mean, you saw the poll at the start, right? It was like 60-40 at one point.
Yeah, I did think I was going to have to watch Money in the Bank. I was resigned to it. So, yeah, the poll went from like 60-40 over the course of the first day to like a dead even 50-50. And, then something would get up to 51, but nothing could get above 51. And, here's where I will admit, I started thinking about this more and was like, I really don't want to watch this Money in the Bank match. So I took the poll and I gave it to some of my friends that are not wrestling fans. And I was like, here you go. Please vote for Okada Shibata. So even though I technically lost this poll, quote unquote, I think I came out a winner here. I did not have to watch Money in the Bank. But yeah, the final tally ended up being 53-47 after I greased the wheels of voting and committed voter fraud. And I sent it to my friends to tank my own pick because I did not want to watch it. But yeah, I'm glad I got to watch. This is my favorite match ever of all time. That's why I picked it. I wanted to pick something good for the poll. And I wanted to give you 3 matches that were kind of important to me. And this match is like very important to me. And I've gotten a lot of people watching New Japan by just saying like, what, you should just check this match out. And if you like it, there's more where that came from, and just nobody's ever said I watched that match and I didn't like it. It's an incredible match that really builds, and it just truly, I don't know if anything will ever give me the feeling that match gave me the first time I watched it. Right. I mean, it's you watched it like after the fact, right? Not like in real time. I think I watched this one live. I didn't watch it live. I don't watch anything live, actually, New Japan, because I don't like the sun to be coming up when I get up. Yeah. But I was unspoiled on this match when I watched it. I had no idea who was going to win. So this is, I mean, it's a weird one because it's indisputably one of the greatest matches of all time, I think. But it's also one that this may have only been like the second time I've rewatched it because, I don't know, like I was a gigantic fan of Shibata. And knowing that this match ended his career, it's a little painful to me to watch it, honestly. So, yeah, I mean, it's a match that I think is amazing, and he clearly goes out, on top. But while I'm watching, I can't help myself from thinking, like, buddy, can't you just drink some water? Because that's how, I don't know if you know how it happened, but like he was very dehydrated, and that's why when he does that headbutt towards the end, he has that whatever it was called, like. I don't know the word. It was like some kind of brain injury. Yeah, I know, and that's one of those things too. This is sort of probably for some people, this is like watching a Benoit match almost. Like it feels. I can understand somebody being like, it feels irresponsible to watch this match or to like say it's great, but it just, I mean, in the moment, it was. I couldn't. I mean, that headbutt spot is like a perfectly placed spot in a match. And it ended his career, but it also like it was a headbutt that he did that got the maximum amount of effect that you could ever get out of a headbutt, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's not to me like something where it's like, oh, how could you watch this? You can't watch this. Like, I don't really feel like, anything like that about it. It's just kind of sad, I guess, to watch it for that. Yeah. And it's like, so I have to like really steel myself, I guess, to watch it. But like, I mean, just the match itself is incredible for a million different reasons. So for people who don't know any of the backstory here, there's not a ton really. I mean, Okada was in the middle of his record-breaking title reign. He beat Naito at Dominion in 2016. He would not lose the title until 2 years later at Dominion in 2018 to Kenny Omega, and he broke Tanahashi's defense record in a single reign along the way. So this is like right in the middle. It's towards the end of the first year, so he's got a long way to go in this reign, obviously. Shibata had just won the New Japan Cup, and he entered what would turn out to tragically be his final match, probably ever. I know people got very excited when he laid out Kenta, but I always only allowed myself to get so excited, because I thought maybe he would come back for like a tag match or something, but it sounds like he can't even do that. So if he never wrestles again, I will not be surprised. But the other thing too, and maybe this is me even trying to put too positive a spin on it, but like, I don't know if you watched that documentary that they did with him at the LA Dojo, but like, he does seem legitimately, like, sincerely happy, with his role. Like, he actually seems like he really loves teaching these students in the LA Dojo, and by all accounts, I mean, he's doing a great job. I mean, these guys that came out of nowhere, basically, like Carl Fredericks and them, they look fucking a hell of a lot better than most of your, performance center guys. So, clearly he's a great trainer, and, he seems to enjoy it. And he seems to be really good at it. So, and he recovered completely when it looked like, he could have died here, honestly. So it could have been a much worse ending. And, maybe that makes it a little more watchable. But
yeah, that is true. If he had died, I probably wouldn't have been like, we should do this match. But this, yeah. I mean, I know it's like a super normie pick for the Voices of Wrestling audience or whatever. Like, it feels like everybody's like, oh, why would you pick the? But I really wanted to. I wanted to give people like some sort of a sense of what I like, and right. That is something that I love that match, and I will always recommend it to people. And I'm so excited. I was so glad I got to watch it again today. And
I was in the building when he came out at the G1 in 2017, when no one had seen or heard of him for months and months and months, and that in that G1 final in 2017. That music hits, and that's like one of those moments that, like, for the rest of my life, I'll never forget. I mean, people were just bawling when this man came out, and like I'll be honest, I was crying a little bit too. And it was everybody. I mean, he came out and just took that bump and just said, I'm still alive. That's all. And like, yeah, that was just one of those moments I'll never forget. So I'm very glad he survived what could have been it could have been deadly. I mean, he could have died, but it's very, very lucky that he seems like he's enjoying himself as the head of the LA Dojo. So it's a bad ending, but it could have been a much worse ending, I guess, is the best way to put it. But I'm happy he was even able to do that spot with Kenta, which I imagine, just that run in this past year must have been, really thrilling for him. He looked like he was having the time of his life doing it, and crowd was going absolutely batshit. So, I'm sure even just training to do that must have been really something for him. So, but yeah, so this starts with some fine mat wrestling. I always enjoy some actual grappling in my graps. So, and that's a good start. And, sometimes the Okada mat wrestling start isn't very good. There's definitely been some ones where, like the Ibushi match at Wrestle Kingdom this year, where like the mat wrestling stuff really isn't interesting at all. But here I thought it was pretty interesting. So I thought it was pretty good. And then we get like the first moment where you can see where this match is going, where the crowd gets really mad at Okada not giving Shibata a clean break in the corner. And, Okada just goes like crazy and like, he basically, Okada doesn't go crazy, but he basically just is like refuses to give this guy the clean break. And, Okada, I've always liked him. I've made this point before talking about this match. I like him way more when he's playing that subtle heel and when he's, the obstacle the other guy has to get past. I think where Okada isn't as interesting to me is when he's playing the baby phase. I don't really find him super engaging, entertaining, fighting from the bottom or playing the baby phase. But when he is like, he's like this in this position, because his real life position, right, is the guy who was chosen by the company to be the eternal ace, to be on top of the company for the next 20 years. And, it's a very defensible choice on their part. I mean, he's a tall guy, good looking guy. He's got some charisma, he's in great shape. So I like it better when they lean into that, when they lean into this his real life persona, I think, of being the guy that was chosen by the company to be the top guy. And, it feels like this match leans into that, where it's like he refuses to give the clean break. He's a dick to this guy. Shibata is this guy that, like, he's not really supposed to be here. He left this company. He doesn't, he's never going to be like the chosen guy of the office. And it feels like he has to work for every fucking thing he gets, tooth and nail. And the crowd is so behind him. So, they don't try to force anything. And I know people hate the WWE New Japan comparison. If this was WWE, they would try to fucking force it down your throat, Like Okada would be the fucking hero. Shibata is this guy left the company. He's a fucking asshole. Like they would try to fucking force that narrative down your throat instead of just going with what was always going to naturally work. So I like that they leaned into what actually was always going to work. And, they're never afraid to let Okada be a dickhead and be the guy, even though he's always going to be the guy and he's always going to be the ace. They're never afraid to let him be the heel in a situation. You saw it again with Naito, right? This past year. And like, they're never afraid to lead into that. Whereas like, it never feels like WWE wants anybody they're pushing to be, I think you can't see them booking Roman Reigns like that, But
yeah, they did it a few times in like matches with Daniel Bryan, I guess, like with Roman Reigns, and it was really good when they did it, but most
so they never
do
it again.
Yeah, most of the time they don't do it, but yeah, he is like Okada to me is also I like him a lot more as a heel, like being like a subtle kind of heel that is the company man guy. I think that is also where I think he excels. Like he's much more interesting that way.
Yeah, and he also, I like that he doesn't overplay it either. Like, he doesn't fucking, in the matches where he's going to be the heel, he doesn't start fucking twirling his mustache and, start low-blowing people or anything. He just fucking does very little, like, subtle things that really makes you want to see this fucking guy lose. So It really worked. So he takes over for a while until Shibata has his first big comeback, including, obviously, the corner drop kick, which the crowd goes nuts for. And then he does another one on the floor with Okada against the railing. Okada cuts Shibata off with this awesome big boot to the face, which looks way better than when he usually does it. So I don't know if it was Shibata's like selling or whatever it was, but it was great. The Rainmaker pose gets booed out of the building, which is a great moment. He goes for the Rainmaker the first time, but Shibata counters into this perfect STO, which is a great moment, and gets this enormous Shibata chant. And then there's this big fucking forearm exchange in the middle of the ring with the sweat flying off them. They beat each other's asses, including like these really stiff forearms from Shibata. But Okada fires back with some European uppercuts, then hits that fucking neck breaker thing he does. And then like they have this like long slap exchange, which is really good. And Okada basically goes crazy on after that. He like starts choking him in the corner, and the crowd's like so fucking pissed at this point. And then he runs in and hits his own corner drop kick, which just an awesome fucking spot. He immediately goes back to choking him, but then Shibata like stands up and like holds his foot and like it's like, you're not going to choke me anymore. But Okada blocks his elbow strike, one of his own. But then Shibata does the Okada drop kick, the standing drop kick Okada style, which is another great moment. And then he's basically had enough Okada shit here, and he starts fucking punching, which is great. I love when Puro guys punch because they almost never do it, right? So by the time when Shibata fucking cocks his fist and just is like starts throwing these overhead punches to the top of Okada's head, it's almost like this motherfucker's gone too far. Now I'm gonna fuck him up, basically. And then he just starts boot scraping on the corner. But his first attempt at the PK is met by an Okada dropkick. Now, this match is already incredible, But I think this next sequence is where it goes from like incredible to all-time classic. So we hit 30-minute mark, and I honestly couldn't. I love one of the reasons why I love when these New Japan matches announce the 5-minute intervals is because I never would have guessed we were at 30 minutes already. I mean, it felt like it had been like 10 minutes maybe. Okada hits these 2 seated drop kicks on Shibata. Shibata rolls backwards to the second one and no-sells it. And he fucking hits this incredible German suplex on Okada. Like, just drops him on the back of his head. But Okada completely no-sells it. Gets up. Drop kick Shibata again. Shibata no-sells that. Gives him this amazing bicycle kick, which looks awesome. Okada dodges another big boot. It's another German suplex. Both men are down. Okada maintains waist control. That whole sequence, I probably didn't even do it justice. I rewatched that sequence like 7 or 8 times, honestly. It's just such a fucking awesome sequence. And then Okada like tries the Rainmaker for the second time. Shibata kicks the arm away. Okada eventually hits it, but Shibata won't go down. Is that not the way in history?
That's the spot where like that is like the first place where you're like, oh my God, like this is serious. Shibata could win here. And I remember even being at the time, like thinking there's no way Shibata's going to win this match. I don't think anybody believed that he was going to win. And that's when you really start to bite. And it's like just so powerful when he doesn't go down.
Yeah, the Rainmaker at this point, I don't think anyone's even kicked out of it yet. Have they? And did Kenny kick out of it? I don't even remember. Maybe Tanahashi did. No, Tanahashi kicked out of it. A few people kicked out of it at this point. But, like, it's still very rare. I mean, very, very rare that people kick out of the Rainmaker. So, like, for Shibata doesn't kick out of it. He doesn't even fucking go down. He takes his dead fucking move and just stands there. And it's just like, I will not fucking go down for your fucking, spinning lariat thing. I am Katsuyori Shibata. I'm too fucking tough to sell for your fucking lariat. I don't give a shit. It's just one of the, like the first time I saw this match, I'm just like, my God, like this, what an amazing moment. So
and it also feels like it takes a lot out of Shibata too. Like he sells the damage from it still. Yeah. Like he kind of is taken aback by it, but he just stays up and it makes him look so badass.
So he hits the cursed headbutt here, and the blood starts pouring down his head. And it's a great moment, but I really wish he hadn't done it, obviously. And then he gets for the fucking octopus hold on. Now, this is great because that's Inoki's finisher. So he's basically saying, like, I'm going to beat you with our fucking founder who is not welcome in this company anymore. I'm going back to that. I'm going back to strong style. I'm going to beat with the fucking octopus hold. That's great. Like, I love that as a little touch. And I think it works even if you don't know that. But if you do know that, I think it's incredible. And Okada makes the ropes after a long struggle. And Shibata gets the sleeper locked in as we hit the 35-minute call. And Okada reaches for the ropes. And then Shibata just calmly grabs that arm, pulls it back, and hits my favorite move in wrestling history, the fucking sleeper suplex. Isn't the sleeper suplex awesome? Such a great fucking move. It looks like it fucking breaks someone's neck. Then he does the second most badass moment of all time after the Rainmaker no-sell, the Rainmaker slap. Which, I don't know if we listen to this in Japanese or English. The Japanese announcers fucking lose their shit over this. Like, they're both stunned and like Rainmaker, whatever the fuck, and like they say slap, whatever slap is in Japanese, I don't remember. But like they yell it and they're like, they're so fucking like they're taken aback by this and just like, what the fuck is going on? And the crowd too is like, what the hell is going on? A Rainmaker slap, just an incredible moment. And then he holds onto the wrist while he kicks the fucking shit out of him, which Okada takes like a champ. So good for him. But then he makes one crucial mistake, which bites him in the ass, which he holds onto Okada's wrist as he goes to run away. And Okada pulls him back. I assume he's running over to hit the PK. And Okada pulls him back for a short Rainmaker. And then both guys are down, but Okada still has the wrist. Shibata tries to boot his way out, and Okada boots him back. Does another short Rainmaker. Shibata only collapses the knees this time. And then Okada sets him up for the full thing. And Shibata, he raises his arm like he is going to counter again, which is such an amazing fucking touch. This man has a fucking like brain contusion at this point, and somehow he still thinks to fucking get his arm up to act like he's going to counter again, which I thought he was going to for a second the first time I watched this. And it just an amazing touch. I can't believe he still had the presence of mind to do. But he doesn't get the arm up quite fast enough, and Okada hits the Rainmaker clean this time and pins him 1-2-3. This is basically a perfect match, one of the greatest of all time. The easiest 5 stars I think I've ever given, probably. And an amazing thing about it is there are no near falls in this match. None.
No, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about the fact that you're right. That is probably what makes it seem so intense in the end, in that last run where there's no cover attempts that to slow it down at all. Like it just keeps building, and you feel like how far is this going to go? This almost has gone too far. That is incredible.
I mean, the New Japan modern like main event style is, and people often say that it's just, it's too reliant on near falls. And they went out here and they were like, we're just not going to do any. They're just like, there have been so many really awesome New Japan matches that had a lot of near falls, and they were just like, let's not do any. Let's just we're not going to go for any. There's probably no covers in this match for like 35 minutes or something. Like I can think of one cover early on, and then there might not be any more until the finish. They're for sure not in the last like 20 minutes.
And that's why it also feels like you don't know how you got to this fevered pitch in that match. That is what it makes you feel like. You just get to a point in this match where you're like, I am really invested in this. And it really feels like these two guys are going at each other. Like I didn't notice how ratcheted up it was getting. And then at least the first time I did notice this time, but the first time I watched it, I didn't notice how much it had ratcheted up until like the headbutt, where I was like, holy shit. Like this match is intense. And it still goes on for a long time after that. It's just a really good match that makes it that like, if you're watching it, it's like 40 minutes long. And it doesn't feel like that at all. And it almost, even when it ends, you're like, I wish that was still happening.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it sucks that it's Shibata's last match, but I mean, it's really impossible to go out more on top than he did here. And the fact that he was able to survive the very serious injury and, seems to be happy now, definitely makes it a little easier to watch now. But yeah, I mean, look, Okada does amazing work as a subtle heel. This like fucking barrier that Shibata gives everything to try to topple over and just can't quite do it. Shibata is just, I don't even really know how to describe his performance here. I mean, everything he does, his selling, his timing, his connection with this crowd, just everything is absolutely perfect. There is nothing in this match. I really cannot think of a single thing you could possibly think is bad. Like there are a lot of wild opinions on the internet, and I've had some wild opinions too, I'm sure, to many listeners, but I've really never met the person who says this match is bad. I don't know if I want to meet that person. I kind of think that person shouldn't exist. So if you're out there, I guess you can at me at Russell Omakase so I can block you, I guess. But I mean, I don't know what the counter opinion would be.
That it's, problematic to enjoy it, but that's just the way things are.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I don't really view that as a criticism of the match, I guess, but I guess
no. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say he shouldn't have done the headbutt, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, sure.
So, but yeah, Okada, like I said, amazing as a subtle heel. Shibata's great, just absolutely amazing. His facial expressions in this match are just like you ride that entire wave with him, where like you see it all on his face, where he's giving everything he has to beat this man, and he just can't quite do it. All the work is like really crisp and timed perfectly. Nothing you could even remotely call a botch. And the story of the match is so perfect, but like, Shibata giving everything he has, just coming up a little bit short in the end. And it completely works, and it just absolutely is an incredible match. But yeah, this is like the antidote, I guess, for people who complain that New Japan big main events are just a bunch of near fall fests. So this is the match you show them. And, this one match of the year in the Voice of Wrestling poll in 2017. Some years I don't agree with the poll. Not one of those years. This was absolutely the best match of 2017, and one of the best matches of all. I mean, if I was going to make a best match ever list, I don't see how this would be lower than third. I can think of maybe two matches I like better. It'd be really close, though. And I don't even know if you know this story, but when this won the Voice of Wrestling poll, some fucking professional gamer friend of Kenny Omega, I guess, was like mad. And because this was also the year that we had the 3 Okada Omega matches, and I guess, Kenny thought he was going to win. And the gamer friend was like, look at this shit. Voting this match is disgusting. And Kenny liked the tweet.
Oh, no.
And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Kenny? So there's some shit with Kenny where I'm just like, Shibata, this man is at this point, we didn't even know if he was going to be as okay as he is now. I'm like, why the fuck did you like this tweet, asshole? So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's why I hate Kenny Omega.
Yeah. It was a hateable move.
Yeah. But I already didn't like his wrestling that much before that, so I can't fucking lie. But yeah, so I remember that, so I wanted to bring it up. But yeah, do you have any final thoughts on the match, since you were the one who picked it after all?
No, it is my favorite match ever. And I hope I guess there could be one that's better, but if I had to make a best matches of all time, I would make this my number one for sure.
I mean, I definitely couldn't. I mean, I'm thinking of one, there might be one Noah match and one All Japan match I like better, but it's real close. I mean, it's for sure my favorite New Japan match ever. And I can't think of anything I like better. So, and obviously I love a lot of Nitro matches, but this everything about this match is pretty much perfect. And I don't know what nitpick you could have with it. Like I said, if you have one, I guess let me know. But other than the headbutt, I guess would be the one. But it's a match I've never seen anyone really try to tear down, because it's I don't know what you would say, really.
Yeah, there's nothing to say.
All right, Bryan, give me some plugs here. I'm sure you got a bunch of them.
Hey, you just go to Street Fight Radio or .com or the PODcast. I am Murder Bryan on Twitter. You can find me there, and I just tweet.
Very short plug, actually. I thought that'd be longer. You have a Patreon too, man. Plug the Patreon.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, we do. Street Fight and the PODcast both have Patreons. But you just listen to the free stuff at first and then decide if you like. If you want to hear a show about left politics, that's Street Fight. If you want to hear a show about new metal music, that's the PODcast. That's my yin and my yang.
And maybe I'll ask you for advice soon, because I might be doing Omakase Patreon. We'll see.
No problem. Anytime.
But we'll see about that. It depends on wrestling coming back, basically. So,
yeah.
In the meantime, if it does, then I think I have a good plan, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So, folks, you can follow us on Twitter at WrestleOmakase. Wrestling Would Not Fit, of course. And next week, our next 5 Matches episode, I'm going to be very happy to bring on a big fan of the wrestler I just buried, Kenny Omega, Liam from the Wednesday War Games podcast on this very network, will be making his Omakase debut. So I already know what matches we're picking, so it's going to be an interesting set, I think. We've kind of had, this is like the Nakamura mini series on this 5-match series, because last week had, I think, 2 Nakamura matches, and this week had another one, and next week we're going to have 2 more, including one that has come up many times on this Omakase before. When Liam picked this match, I laughed out loud. So I think people will enjoy it. So that'll be a pick for next week. And, there's going to be some Naito and some Kenny. Very New Japan heavy episode next week. So if you want to hear some New Japan talk, next week's episode will be the one for you. So that'll be next week. In the meantime, we thank you as always for listening, and we'll see you next time.